The night was colder than any winter James had ever known. The wind howled through the cracks of his small cabin at the edge of the human colony on planet Eltar 9. Snowflakes, blue and glowing faintly, fell like sparks from the dark sky. Most people had already gone into hibernation mode, hiding from the storms that swept across this frozen world. James sat near his heater, wrapped in an old blanket, sipping a cup of recycled coffee. He was used to silence. It had been months since anyone had visited him. He liked it that way, peace, quiet, and no more war stories. He was a human engineer once, part of the rebuilding team after the Galactic War, but now he only wanted to be forgotten. Then, a sound broke the stillness. Knock. Knock. James froze. It was impossible. No one should be outside at this hour, not in this weather. He turned his head toward the door, half expecting the wind to be playing tricks. Knock. Knock. This time, weaker. Slower. Almost like someone was using the last of their strength. He stood up, grabbed his thermal jacket, and walked carefully toward the door. His breath fogged in front of his face. "Who's there?" He called out, but the storm swallowed his voice. He unlocked the latch, pulled the door open, and gasped. A small figure stood there, covered in snow and trembling. It wasn't human. The skin was faintly violet, the eyes glowing a dim turquoise. The creature looked young, maybe 12 years old in human terms, and wore nothing but a torn metallic fabric that barely covered her shoulders. "But please," she whispered, her voice cracking. "Help me." For a moment, James didn't move. He had seen aliens before, but not like her. Her face was almost human, delicate, frightened, but her hands had thin silver lines running through them like veins made of light. Before he could speak, she collapsed forward. James caught her just in time. Her skin was ice cold, damn it, he muttered. He pulled her inside, closed the door, and set her near the heater. The girl shivered violently, curling into herself like a frozen bird. James looked at her for a long moment. The Galactic Council had strict rules. Humans were not allowed to shelter undocumented aliens, especially after the war. Breaking that law meant prison, maybe worse. But how could he throw her back out there? He sighed, rubbing his forehead. "You picked the wrong door, kid," he whispered. But his hands were already wrapping her in his blanket. Slowly, her breathing steadied. She opened her eyes, looking around the small cabin. "Where am I?" "You're safe for now," James said quietly. "You're lucky I heard you." The girl looked at him with fear. "You're human?" He nodded. "That's right." "And you?" She hesitated. Her small lips trembled. "I'm not supposed to say..." James frowned. "You're not supposed to be out here either." She said nothing, just stared at the heater like it was the most beautiful thing she had ever seen. He poured her a cup of warm water and handed it to her. She took it carefully, both hands shaking. "What's your name?" he asked. She hesitated again, then whispered, "Lyra." "All right, Lyra. I'm James." She blinked at him. Why did you help me?" "Humans don't help my kind." James looked away. "Maybe I'm not like the others." Outside, the wind screamed against the cabin walls. Inside, silence hung between them, thick and uneasy. Lyra's eyes darted around the room, landing on the old photo on the table. It showed a smiling woman and a little girl with curly hair. "Your family?" she asked softly. James's jaw tightened. "Was?" Lyra lowered her head. "I'm sorry," he said nothing. He didn't want to remember. But something about her small frame, her voice, pulled at the part of him that still felt human. "Get some rest," he finally said. "We'll talk in the morning." Lyra nodded weakly and lay down on the couch. Within minutes, she was asleep. James sat by the heater, watching her chest rise and fall. Who was she running from? Why was an alien child alone in the frozen wilds of Eltar 9? Then he noticed something strange. Small metallic flakes melting from her hair, leaving faint light trails on the blanket. They pulsed once, twice, then faded. James leaned forward, his eyes narrowing. "What the hell are you?" he whispered outside, unseen in the storm. A drone hovered silently, its red sensor blinking as it scanned his cabin. Someone, or something, knew exactly where Lyra was. The storm lasted through the night. Wind roared like a beast outside, shaking the walls of the small cabin. James didn't sleep much. Every time he closed his eyes, he heard that weak voice again. "Please, help me." He sat by the heater, watching the alien girl sleep. The blanket rose and fell with each shallow breath. In the dim orange light, her skin shimmered slightly, like it was made of glass and starlight mixed together. She looked fragile, too fragile to belong in this cruel world. When morning came, the storm finally slowed. James poured a cup of synthetic coffee and looked out through the frosted window. Blue snow covered everything. The colony domes far away were hidden under layers of ice. No signs of life. Just silence. Behind him, Lyra moved. She woke up slowly, her glowing eyes opening to the dull morning light. "It's so quiet," she whispered. James nodded. "That's how Eltar 9 always is. Quiet enough to hear your own heartbeat." Lyra sat up, pulling the blanket around her shoulders. She looked smaller now, more childlike than the night before. "You really shouldn't have helped me," she said suddenly. "They'll come for you." James turned to her, frowning. "Who's they?" She didn't answer. Her eyes darted toward the door, fear flickering like a candle about to go out. "Lyra," he said softly, "you're safe here, but I need to know what's going on. Who's chasing you?" Tears filled her eyes. "I can't tell you. If I do, you'll die too." James sighed and sat down on the chair across from her. "Kid, I've already died once," he said quietly. "You don't survive a galactic war without losing something." For a few seconds, neither of them spoke. The heater hummed. The wind whistled outside. Then Lyra reached out her hand, the same hand with glowing silver veins, and touched the metal mug on the table. Instantly, the mug began to hum, tiny particles lifting from its surface like dust in sunlight. The metal bent slightly, reshaping itself before James's eyes. He stared. "What the? It's my curse," she whispered. "My blood? It changes things." James leaned closer, eyes wide. "You're not just any alien, are you?" Lyra shook her head. "I was made in a lab. They call me a bioconstruct. I escaped because they were going to take my heart. For their machines." Her voice broke at the last word. James's stomach tightened. He'd heard of secret programs, aliens engineered for war, for power, for profit. But a child? "Why come here?" he asked. "Because humans were supposed to help," she said, tears slipping down her cheeks. "But when they saw what I was, they called me dangerous. One man tried to sell me to the council." James clenched his jaw. He could almost see it, the greed, the betrayal, the fear. It was the same story, just a new face. "Listen, Lyra," he said. "Whatever you are, you're not my enemy. You need rest and food. We'll figure out the rest later." She looked at him with trembling hope. "You'll help me?" He nodded once. "I said I would." She smiled faintly, but the smile faded when a sharp beep came from the corner of the cabin. James turned toward the small terminal on the wall. The signal light was blinking red. Someone was scanning the area. James's eyes went cold. Damn it! He rushed to the panel and shut off the transmitter, but it was too late. The system had already pinged back a location trace. "They found us," he muttered. Lyra's face turned pale. "It's them. The enforcers. How fast can they get here?" "Minutes," she whispered. James's military instincts kicked in. He grabbed his old pulse rifle from the wall and checked the charge. "All right, kid. If they want you, they'll have to come through me." Lyra stood trembling near the door. "You'll die if you fight them." "Maybe," he said, loading a new cell into the weapon. "But I've got nothing left to lose." She looked at him, something like sorrow in her glowing eyes. Then suddenly she placed her hands on his arm. The silver lines on her skin pulsed brightly, and the rifle shimmered, changing color from steel gray to deep blue. "What did you just—" "It's stronger now," she said quietly. "It'll protect you." Outside, the faint hum of engines echoed through the frozen air. A drone shadow passed across the window. James took a deep breath and positioned himself by the door. "Stay behind me," he said. Lyra nodded, clutching the blanket to her chest. The red sensor light outside stopped moving. For one long second, everything went silent. Then, boom! The door exploded inward. Smoke, fire, and bright white lights filled the cabin. Armored figures stepped through, their helmets shining with the symbol of the Galactic Council. "By order of the Council," one of them shouted, "surrender the alien construct." James raised his weapon. His voice was steady. "You'll have to kill me first." And behind him, Lyra whispered, "They already tried." Smoke filled the cabin. Sparks flew as metal pieces from the broken door scattered across the floor. James coughed and raised his weapon, his heartbeat loud in his ears. 3 armored enforcers entered through the smoke, their rifles glowing blue. Lyra hid behind the broken couch, trembling. Her glowing eyes flicked between James and the attackers. She wanted to scream, but fear locked her throat. "Put down your weapon, human," the lead enforcer shouted. His voice came through a speaker, cold and mechanical. "You are harboring illegal biological property. Surrender her and you will live." James gritted his teeth. "She's a child, not property. Bioconstructs are not recognized as sentient life under galactic law," the soldier replied, stepping forward. "This is your final warning." James didn't move. His grip on the rifle tightened. The blue light running along its body, thanks to Lyra's strange power, pulsed like a heartbeat. Then everything happened at once. The first enforcer fired. A pulse bolt hit the wall beside James, sending a burst of energy across the cabin. James rolled to the side and fired back. His rifle hummed, releasing a shockwave that threw one soldier backward into the snow. The blast was stronger than he expected. Too strong. He glanced at Lyra, realizing she wasn't just guessing when she said she made it stronger. "James," she screamed. "Behind you!" He turned just in time to see another enforcer charging. James ducked and fired again. The bolt hit the attacker square in the chest, sending sparks through the armor. The enforcer fell motionless, only one remained, the leader. He stepped closer, raising his arm. A metallic cable shot out, wrapping around James's wrist. The weapon flew from his hand. James struggled, but the enforcer was stronger. "You humans never learn," the soldier hissed. "Always protecting what you don't understand." Before James could respond, Lyra stood up. Her small body shook, but her eyes glowed brighter now, brighter than before. "Let him go," she said softly. The enforcer laughed. "Or what, little experiment?" Lyra raised her hand. The air around her shimmered. The metal cable wrapped around James's arm began to vibrate, then melt, turning into liquid light. The enforcer tried to pull it back, but it was too late. "Impossible," he shouted. Lyra stepped forward, tears in her eyes but fury in her voice. "You hurt too many like me." The room filled with a sharp hum as her silver veins glowed fiercely. The ground trembled. The enforcer's armor started to warp, bending inward as if invisible hands were crushing it. He screamed, trying to fight back, but his own weapon melted in his grip. "Lyra, stop!" James shouted. "You'll kill yourself!" She shook her head. "He'll never stop chasing us." Her light grew blinding. The enforcer dropped to his knees, the metal around him twisting like liquid. Then suddenly silence. The light flickered and died. The soldier collapsed, unmoving. Lyra fell too, straight into James's arms. Hey," he said quickly, lowering her to the floor. "Stay with me." Her breathing was shallow. Her skin flickered with dim blue light. I didn't mean to hurt him," she whispered weakly. "It just happened." James looked at her in shock and awe. "You saved my life." She shook her head faintly. "No, I destroyed another." James held her trembling hand. "You didn't have a choice, Lyra. They came to kill you." Outside, the storm began to calm. The snow stopped falling. For the first time in hours, the world was quiet again. James looked around the ruined cabin. 3 enforcers, all dead or unconscious. The council would come looking for them soon. He knew that. Hiding was no longer an option. He wrapped Lyra in the blanket again and whispered, "We have to move." Her eyes opened slightly. "Where?" "There's an old mining station north of here," James said. "Abandoned since the war. We can hide there, maybe contact someone I trust." Lyra nodded weakly. "Will they help us?" James wasn't sure. "They owe me a favor," he said, forcing a small smile. "That's enough for now." He packed a small bag, loaded a few power cells, and slung the modified rifle over his shoulder. Then he carried Lyra out into the cold morning. The horizon glowed faintly pink. Eltar's twin suns rising behind the ice mountains. Lyra rested her head against his shoulder. "You could have left me," she whispered. James looked down at her, his breath fogging in the air. "Yeah," he said quietly. "But then I wouldn't be human." As they disappeared into the white wasteland far above them, a satellite camera turned its lens toward the frozen ground, tracking 2 small heat signatures moving north and miles away. In a dark room filled with screens, a voice said calmly, "Subject 07 has been found. Prepare retrieval units." The wind cut through the air like knives. James pushed forward, his boots crunching over the ice. He carried Lyra on his back. wrapped tightly in a thermal blanket. Every few steps he could feel her light heartbeat against him, faint but alive. The sky above them was a gray ocean, thick clouds hiding the twin suns. The snow stretched endlessly across the land, glowing faintly blue under the clouds. In the distance, black rock mountains rose like the bones of a giant buried in the ice. That was where James was heading, the abandoned Eltar Mining Station 07, a place forgotten after the Galactic War. He remembered it well. He had helped build its generators years ago. It was dangerous, unstable, but hidden, and right now hidden was the only safe option. "Still with me, kid?" James asked without turning his head. Lyra's soft voice came from behind him. "Cold, but okay," he smiled faintly. "Good, you hang in there. We're almost there." She rested her head against his shoulder, whispering, "Why do you keep helping me, James?" He took a long breath. "Because I see too much of myself in you." She frowned weakly. "But you're human." "I'm not." James gave a quiet laugh. "Pain doesn't care about species, Lyra." They walked for hours, their breath turning into small clouds in the frozen air. Sometimes James thought he heard sounds behind them, soft hums, like machines moving under the snow, but every time he turned there was nothing. Finally, the black outline of the mining station appeared through the mist. It looked dead, half buried in snow with collapsed towers and broken antennae. But to James it was beautiful. It meant warmth, shelter, and a few hours to breathe. He set Lyra down near the entrance and scanned the lock panel. It was still powered by an old energy cell. "Lucky day," he muttered. He pulled out a small tool and started bypassing the system. Lyra watched him silently. "You used to work here?" "Sort of," James said, not looking up. "I fixed machines. I built things for people who didn't deserve them." The lock beeped once, then the door opened with a heavy hiss. Warm air, dry and metallic, flowed out. James helped Lyra inside. The hallway lights flickered as they stepped in. Dust floated like snowflakes in the air. "It's like a tomb," Lyra whispered. "Yeah," James said quietly. "A tomb for people who stopped caring." They found an old control room with working heaters. James set Lyra down near one and searched the shelves for supplies. He found a few rations, a med pack, and a cracked communicator. It wasn't much, but it was something. Lyra stared at the dead monitors, her small fingers brushing against the dust. "Do you think the council will find us again?" James loaded the heater with a fresh cell. "If they do, I'll be ready." She hesitated, then asked softly, "What did you lose in the war, James?" He froze. For a long moment, the only sound was the faint hum of the heater. "My wife," he said finally, "and my daughter." Lyra lowered her head. "I'm sorry." He nodded slowly. "They were caught in a council bombing. They said it was a mistake, but I stopped believing in mistakes after that." Lyra looked up at him, tears shining in her eyes. "So, that's why you hate them." James met her gaze. "I don't hate them, Lyra. I just don't trust anyone who calls pain necessary." Before she could answer, a sharp tone came from the broken communicator on the table. Static hissed, then a faint voice broke through. "James, if you're hearing this, respond." James's eyes widened. "No way." He grabbed the device. "This is James Carter." "Who is this?" "Carter, it's Marin. I thought you were dead." "We picked up your distress ping." "Where are you?" James looked at Lyra. "Long story," he said quickly. "Listen, I need safe transport off Eltar 9. I've got someone with me." The voice hesitated. "Someone? Human?" "No, but she's not what the council says she is. Please, Marin, help me." There was a long pause. Then, "I'll try. But Carter, you need to know there's a bounty on that girl's head. The council declared her Omega class. That means she's worth more than your life." Lyra's face turned pale. James squeezed the device. "I don't care what she's worth. Just tell me how to get out." "Head north," Marin said. "There's an old shuttle bay near the cliffs. I can meet you there in 12 hours. But be careful. The council has already sent hunters." The signal cut off with a burst of static. James exhaled slowly, turning to Lyra. "We've got 12 hours. Lyra stood, her eyes glowing faintly in the dark. "Then we run again," he nodded. "Yeah, but next time we fight on our terms." Outside, under the frozen horizon, a sleek black ship descended silently. Its symbol, the mark of the Omega Retrieval Division, glowed like fire in the snow. They had found her again. The wind screamed again across the wasteland, chasing white dust like ghosts. James tightened his grip on the rifle and led Lyra through the frozen valley. Each step crunched underfoot. The mining station behind them was now only a dark scar in the endless snow. They had 12 hours. Maybe less. The council's hunters would already be on the move. "Keep close," James said, glancing back. Lyra's hood was pulled low, her small footprints filling with snow seconds after she passed. "We'll make the shuttle bay before night if we're lucky." She nodded, silent but alert. Since the last attack, her light had dimmed. No glow, no shimmer. She was hiding her power. After a few minutes, Lyra asked softly, "Why do they want me so badly?" James hesitated. "Because they're afraid of what you can do. Power like yours. People always want to control it." Lyra looked down. "But I never wanted power." "I know," he said. "That's what makes you different." They walked in silence for a while. The air thinned, sharper now. The temperature dropped fast, biting through their suits. Far ahead, dark shapes rose from the snow. Broken ships, wrecks from the war long ago. "Stay low," James said quickly. "Good place for a trap." They crouched behind a half-buried wing. The ground trembled faintly, a vibration that grew stronger. Then they saw it. 3 flying drones cutting through the mist, red lights scanning the surface. Lyra's breath hitched. "They found us." "Not yet," James whispered. He pulled a small device from his belt, a signal jammer. He pressed the button and a soft pulse spread through the air. The nearest drone wavered, its red light flickering. Then it crashed into the snow with a metallic shriek. The others circled, scanning faster. James aimed, fired once. The rifle burst with a silent flash. Another drone exploded mid-air. The third sped upward, escaping into the clouds. "Damn it," he muttered. "They'll bring more." Lyra touched his arm. "Let me try." Her eyes glowed faintly again. She raised both hands, focusing. The air shimmered, and for a moment the wind bent around them. The sky itself seemed to blur. James blinked. "What are you doing?" "Hiding us," she whispered. "They can't see our heat now." When she stopped, her body swayed from weakness. James steadied her. "You use too much energy." "I'm okay," she said faintly. "Just cold." They moved again, crossing the wreck field until the cliffs came into view. Massive black walls of ice stretching toward the sky. Somewhere inside them lay the old shuttle bay Marin had mentioned. But as they climbed, a new sound echoed. A deep, heavy thud. Then another. James froze. "That's not wind." Out of the fog came a tall figure in white armor, walking slowly but surely. Its visor glowed crimson. Behind it marched 2 more. These weren't drones, they were hunters, elite soldiers bred to capture Omega-class targets alive. "Run," James said. Lyra shook her head. "They'll follow." "Exactly. You run, I'll slow them down." "No," she shouted, grabbing his sleeve. "They'll kill you!" He smiled faintly. Wouldn't be the first time someone tried. Before she could argue, he pushed her toward the narrow ice path. "Go, find Marin, I'll catch up." Tears filled her eyes, but she obeyed. She ran, her small figure vanishing into the fog. James turned back to face the hunters. "All right, boys," he muttered, raising his rifle. "Let's dance." The first bolt hit the ice beside him, sending shards flying. James rolled, fired back. His shot struck one hunter's chest, but the armor absorbed it. The soldier advanced, mechanical voice echoing. "Subject's protector identified, terminate." James fired again, hitting a fuel canister buried in the wrecks. It exploded in a roar of blue fire. The blast threw 2 hunters aside, but the third kept coming, unstoppable. Out of nowhere, the ice beneath them cracked. A glowing blue river surged upward, a hidden geothermal vein awakened by the blast. Steam burst into the air, blinding everyone. James stumbled, almost falling into the fissure. The hunter lunged, then a flash, pure white light lit the mist. The soldier froze mid-strike, his armor turning soft, melting like wax. Behind him stood Lyra, glowing brighter than ever, eyes shining like twin stars. "I told you not to hurt him," she said, her voice trembling but strong. The hunter tried to raise his weapon, but it dissolved in his hands. Then with a soft hum, the armor collapsed completely, leaving only silence. James stared at her. "Lyra, you came back." She nodded weakly. "You helped me." "I help you," he wanted to scold her, but instead he smiled. "Remind me never to argue with you again." She laughed quietly, but her glow dimmed once more. "We should go. More will come." James looked up at the cliffs. "Then let's make sure they never find us. Together." They climbed higher, disappearing into the storm. Far below, In the crater left by the explosion, the melted hunter twitched once, then his visor relit, flashing red. A signal pulsed into the sky. Coordinates confirmed. Target reacquired. And somewhere above the clouds, a massive warship turned its engines toward Eltar 9. Snow whirled across the cliffs like torn paper in the wind. James and Lyra climbed the narrow path, breath turning to frost. Above them, the clouds glowed red, not from the sunrise, but from the engines of the ship descending through the storm. James looked up. His stomach dropped. The warship was enormous, like a floating city wrapped in black armor. Its engines burned orange against the dark sky, melting the snow beneath it. "They found us again," he muttered. Lyra grabbed his sleeve, eyes wide. "That's not just hunters. That's an Omega-class carrier. They'll destroy everything to get me." "Then we don't give them the chance," James said, forcing calm into his voice. They reached a flat plateau where the cliff split into two paths, one leading deeper into the mountains, the other down to a wide crater half covered in ice. At its center stood an ancient shuttle pad, the remains of Station Nero 9, silent for years. James knelt beside a half-buried control panel and brushed the snow away. The old metal groaned. "This should still have power if the geothermal core is active." Lyra crouched next to him. "Can you fix it?" He smiled faintly. "Kid, I can fix anything." While he worked, the ground vibrated. Distant explosions echoed. The warship was dropping pods, troops deploying from the sky. "James," Lyra whispered. "They're coming fast." "Then I'd better be faster." His fingers moved quickly, reconnecting wires, rerouting energy. Sparks jumped. The platform lights flickered weakly, then stabilized. "Got it." Lyra smiled, just as a shadow fell across them. From the edge of the crater, a small ship descended. Sleek gray, scarred with battle marks. The hatch opened, and a woman in a worn flight suit stepped out holding a blaster. Her dark hair whipped in the wind. "James Carter," she called. "Still causing trouble?" James grinned. "Marin, you actually came." She lowered the weapon and ran toward him. "You're lucky I still owe you." Her eyes shifted to Lyra. "So that's her. The alien child everyone's losing their minds over." Lyra flinched. Marin softened a little. "Don't worry, kid. I don't work for the council anymore." James stood, brushing snow off his coat. "We need to leave before that warship locks onto us." Marin looked up. "Too late. They've already launched interceptors." James cursed under his breath. "Then we fight." Marin shook her head. "Not this time. There's an old geothermal vent beneath this crater. If we overload it, it'll create a heat burst strong enough to blind their sensors. We can slip away before they know what happened." Lyra frowned. "But won't that destroy the whole area?" Marin's face tightened. "Yeah, everything within a mile." James looked between them. "If it means keeping her alive, I'll do it." He turned to Lyra. "Get aboard the shuttle with Marin, I'll trigger the overload." Lyra's eyes widened. "No, you'll die. Someone has to stay behind to make sure it works," he said quietly. "If they catch you, it's over. For everyone." She shook her head, tears freezing on her cheeks. "I won't leave you." James smiled softly, brushing a strand of snow-wet hair from her face. "You gave me something I thought I'd lost a long time ago, Lyra. Hope. Now it's my turn to give you a chance." Before she could answer, Marin grabbed her arm. "Come on, kid." "He's right." Lyra's glow flickered, her voice trembling. "James, please." He turned away before she saw his own tears. "Go, and don't look back." As the shuttle doors closed, James ran to the vent controls, ripping open panels, connecting the power lines manually. Steam hissed as the ground shook harder. The warship's searchlights cut through the clouds, locking onto the crater. "Target acquired," a robotic voice boomed through the loudspeakers. James grinned grimly. "Yeah, you found me." He slammed the final switch. The geothermal core roared to life, glowing deep orange beneath the ice. Above, the shuttle engines screamed as Marin lifted off, vanishing into the storm. Inside, Lyra pressed her face against the window, sobbing silently. "James!" The warship fired its cannons, beams of light raining down, but the ground erupted first. A massive burst of energy shot into the sky, blinding white. The shockwave tore through the valley, swallowing the ship and everything below it in a wave of molten light. The transmission screens on the warship flickered, then went dark. Silence. Hours later, when the smoke cleared, the crater was empty, just glowing glass and drifting snow. High above the clouds, Marin's shuttle sailed quietly through the night, Lyra sat alone near the viewport, clutching James's old jacket in her hands. "Is he gone?" she asked softly. Marin looked at her through the reflection of the stars. "Heroes never really go, kid. They just become part of the light." Lyra looked out at the stars. One of them flared brighter than the rest, glowing blue. She smiled through her tears. "Goodbye, James." Far away, deep under the scorched crater, something moved. A faint blue spark pulsing beneath the ice. James Carter was not dead. Not yet. The world was silent after the explosion. Eltar 9's sky was a storm of gray ash and frozen fire, glowing faintly where the geothermal vent had ripped through the ground. For days nothing moved. No ships, no signals. Only the soft fall of blue snow over glassed rock. Then under the crater, a heartbeat. Faint. Slow. Human. Beneath layers of melted ice, a pulse of blue light flickered. The heat had fused the metal from James's armor with the crystal veins in the ground, and somehow, Lyra's energy that had touched him earlier was still inside him. Glowing like living electricity, James gasped for air. His lungs burned. His body felt heavy but alive. He looked around. The world above was only light and darkness. "Guess I'm harder to kill than they thought," he whispered. He tried to move, but pain shot through his chest. A voice echoed faintly in his head, soft, melodic. "Don't give up, James. You promised you'd come back." Lyra. Her voice wasn't real. Or maybe it was. Either way, it pushed him to move. He crawled toward a tunnel where the explosion had cracked open the ice. Every breath felt like fire, but his heart kept beating. The blue glow under his skin grew brighter with each step. When he finally reached the surface, night had fallen. The stars looked sharper than ever, scattered across the sky like shattered glass. And far above, a faint light streaked, Marin's shuttle leaving orbit. He smiled weakly. "You did it, kid. You got away." But he didn't know that Lyra was not safe yet. In orbit, Marin's ship drifted beyond the clouds, engines running low to avoid detection. Lyra sat alone in the cockpit, staring down at the planet. Her small hands trembled as she clutched the control panel. "I can feel him," she whispered. Marin frowned. "Lyra, you saw that explosion?" "No one could survive that." Lyra's eyes glowed faintly. "He's not gone. I can hear him." Like an echo. Before Marin could answer, the sensors beeped. Fast. Urgent. A new ship had entered orbit, sleek, black. The Council's emblem burned bright on its hull. "They're still chasing you," Marin said, slamming the throttle. "Hold on." The shuttle dived back toward Eltar 9, engines roaring. Lasers tore through the clouds behind them. Lyra's heart raced. "We have to go back." "To James. Going back means we die," Marin shouted. Lyra's glow brightened, filling the cabin with light. "Then let them come." The controls flickered, systems shorting under the surge of energy from her body. The ship dove faster, breaking through the clouds like a falling star. The reunion James stood on the edge of the crater, shivering under the cold wind. His body was changing. Veins of light pulsed under his skin, spreading like roots. He wasn't sure if it was killing him or saving him. Then he saw it. A streak of light falling from the sky, heading straight toward him. The shuttle crashed into the snow a few hundred meters away, sliding until it stopped in a cloud of ice dust. The hatch burst open and Lyra ran out, stumbling toward him. "James!" He blinked, not believing his eyes. "You came back. Again." She threw her arms around him. "I told you I'd never leave you." Marin climbed out of the ship, coughing. "We have company." The Council's warship appeared above the cliffs, its cannons glowing. Loudspeakers thundered, "Surrender the construct. Final warning." James looked down at Lyra, then at his glowing hands. "They won't stop, will they?" Lyra shook her head. "Not until I'm gone." James smiled sadly. "Then let's give them what they want." She frowned. "What do you mean?" He took her hands, and as their palms touched, the blue light in both of them flared. The snow lifted around them, swirling in slow motion. "You changed me, Lyra," James said quietly. "Whatever this energy is, it's ours now, together." Marin shouted from behind, "James! Whatever you're doing, make it fast." The warship fired. The beam shot down. But before it could hit, a dome of pure light erupted from James and Lyra, swallowing the blast. The snow melted. The air shook, and a sound like a heartbeat echoed across the valley. Then everything went still. When the light faded, the warship was gone, not destroyed, not shattered, just disappeared. The air was quiet again. Marin stood frozen, eyes wide. What did you do? Lyra looked at her hands, glowing softly. We didn't destroy them. We sent them away. To where? Marin asked. James smiled faintly. Somewhere far enough that they can't hurt anyone again. His body flickered, half human, half light. I think this is my stop, kid. Lyra's eyes filled with tears. No, you can't go. He knelt, placing a hand on her shoulder. You're free now, Lyra. Live the life they tried to steal from you. She shook her head, sobbing. You're my family, he smiled gently. Then remember me as one. His form glowed brighter and brighter until he was nothing but light. Then with a soft pulse he vanished, carried away by the wind. Lyra stood in the snow, looking at the sky. The stars above shimmered and one shone a little brighter. Blue, steady, warm. She whispered, Goodbye, James. Marin placed a hand on her shoulder. Come on, kid. Let's go home. As they walked toward the shuttle, the blue star flickered once more, a silent promise across the galaxy. Humans break laws, but sometimes they build hope instead.